Thai Pavilion, while you're waiting in the long lines to get inside, they're providing a little cultural diversion with costumes and Thai folk dance. Most countries had to adhere to strict budgets when they designed and built their pavilions, but not so with Saudi Arabia here. They had no budget. As you can see, sky's the limit. Imagine the World Expo grounds as a dirt lot, but a year ago, that's what it was. Back then, we sat in that dirt lot with the architect of Finland's pavilion. Beautiful. Is this the pavilion?
This is the pavilion. The name of the pavilion is Kirnu, which refers to giant's kettle, which is a rock formation in the Finnish nature, which was pressed down by ice age. So that is the void of the rock inside the rock. So basically, the aim was to create a similar space inside this pavilion. So that is the whole in terms of the pavilion.
6 months later, crews labored to make the architect's vision of Kirnu real, and the finished pavilion was finished.
This kind of project is so that you work, like 80% of the project, you work with the idea and the vision. And then suddenly here, in a very short period of time, you suddenly see all those visions to come through. So that is the best reward you can get from any work or assignment.
The finished pavilion is almost 10,000 square feet. The pavilion's theme is well-being, competence, and the environment. Finland's round, saucer-like pavilion gives you the illusion that it floats on a pool of water. Get closer and you'll notice its scaly exterior. In keeping with the green theme, we're here at the finished pavilion, and you'll notice that the outer shell is comprised of something that looks an awful lot like fish scales, but they're not really fish scales. They're scales made up of recycled paper and plastic, some 25,000 of them.
The idea actually came from fish scales and also from very traditional Finnish roofing using small elements and which can follow any form imaginable. And since Kirnu is asymmetric, the architect chose to have this kind of one element which you can cover the whole scale of Kirnu.
Walk into the pavilion's courtyard, look up, and you will see the sky in an elegant circular frame.
Yes, it starts with these larger concepts. Here you can see that you're flying very low. You're flying and entering the building through the gate. And then you come to the courtyard, and then you look up, then there's the sky.
Wow.
And actually which was interesting, that it's the same sky as on a Finnish island. So that is the point, that you take the sky and that is the element of nature.
The interior of the pavilion showcases Finnish ideas and products like these sleds.
This is just a modern approach to a very traditional way to move around when the roads freeze down and the rivers and the sea. So you just stand on these metal heels and you just kick yourself forward. It goes crazy fast.
The idea here is to give people a sense of the Finnish way of life. The sounds and images almost make you feel like you're floating. And now we've entered the future.
Yes, that is right. So this is what we call the city of future. This projection tells about what happens when you have you have an education system, you have kind of people, you have different kind of technologies. So this is like a visual representation of what the city of dreams could be like.
When the expo ends, many of the structures here will have to be dismantled, including the finished pavilion. But that doesn't mean Kirnu will become landfill.
The whole Kirnu is, from the beginning, it is designed to be a permanent building. So it will be quite unwise to design this kind of construction just for 6 months. So the Kirnu is going to be staying in China, but it has to be dismantled from the expo and changed to another location.
One possibility being talked about is it becoming a restaurant. And who knows, it may even be a restaurant that specializes in fish soup. Sadly, nearly all the pavilions will be dismantled after the expo, but some will remain as part of Shanghai skyline, like that spaceship-looking thing there. That is the Performance Center, and it will host everything from rock concerts to symphonies to NBA-sanctioned basketball, with superstars like Kobe, LeBron, and hometown boy Yao Ming. Why does the small country of Luxembourg have such a big presence here at the World Expo? Well, maybe it's because it's trying to make a big impression. Imagine if the U.S. packed up the Statue of Liberty and brought it right here to the Expo. Well, that's essentially what the country of Denmark has done with its national landmark, the Little Mermaid. They brought it right here to the Danish Pavilion, and this is the real thing. One of the more downright weird structures is the Japanese Pavilion over there. It's purple, it's got these ear things jutting out of it. It looks like something straight out of an anime movie or Pokemon. I'm really curious to find out the thinking behind the Japanese Pavilion, and apparently so are a lot of people. Word has gotten out that there's something unique about the Japanese Pavilion. 2 days after the expo has opened, the wait is about 3 hours. The Japanese Pavilion is 64,000 square feet. It cost $140 million. The pavilion's theme is harmony of the hearts, harmony of the skills. From the outside, this is such an unusual looking building. It looks almost like a creature. Explain to me what the idea is behind this pavilion.
This pavilion is very functional. It has 3 horns and 3 holes, and it can take the air and water from the earth and also from the sky. And so it can cool down the temperature. And so we call it breathing organism.
The entire exterior is a lightweight pillow-like membrane, the first of its kind. That pillow surface even has built-in flexible solar panels. Can you tell me, what does it resemble?
It resembles silkworm, and so we asked the Chinese citizens the nickname of this pavilion, and finally we chose the nickname Purple Silkworm Island.
Inside this strange structure are several areas or zones, all with one unified message: the deep connection between Japan and China. Historically, China and Japan have been rivals, and yet the message here is harmony. Can you explain to me?
Yes, in modern age, we have some rivalry, but looking back long term, in our pavilion, we just start Japanese ship to go to Tang Dynasty 1,300 years ago, and we sent so many ships to China to learn the Chinese culture, including Chinese character, textile, pottery, or even Buddhism.
The pavilion uses the story of an endangered bird to highlight Japanese and Chinese cooperation. The crested ibis is one of Asia's most beautiful birds. It had gone extinct in Japan, but China had a few of the birds in captivity. They gave Japan a pair of their birds, which Japan bred. Today, there are 100 of the rare birds in Japan. That's a touching story, but what would the Japanese Pavilion be without some cool technology? Well, here's a quick rundown of what you might see from Japan in the future. Floors that generate electricity whenever people walk on them. Cameras that can sense when a face smiles. A so-called living wall that will be your new window to the world. Interact with it through hand gestures. This Toyota robot plays the violin, but the hope is these robots will be the future caretakers of Japan's aging population. During the final climactic presentation, the Toyotas of tomorrow make an appearance. But then the vehicles of the future drive off, and the pavilion's final message is relayed through a much more traditional form. For instance, at the end, is that just Chinese opera, or explain to me?
The final, the musical, we call it, is the combination between Chinese Kung opera and Japanese no play. So Japanese musical producer and Hong Kong musical producer work together very hard to combine the good mixture of Japan and China. And the performer, all Chinese, but the composer of that music was Japanese. So it's a whole good combination between China and Japan.